Right, second year. Welcome to your Living in a Materian World Modern Studies test revision. Okay, so we're going to start off with a few general facts about the USA. First of all, the flag. The flag is called the Stars and the Stripes. The 50 stars on the flag represents the 50 states that make up the USA today. The 13 stripes on it symbolise the 13 original states that made up the USA. Washington DC, as I'm sure we all know, is the capital of America. Alaska and Hawaii are two states that are separate from all the other states. Hawaii is an island, and Alaska is up the top off of Canada, so it's totally separate from the United States. The US is a democracy where all Americans vote for their president and for who represents them at government, and all American politicians are called senators. The US government. So, the Constitution. The Constitution is a set of rules that sets out what the government can and can't do. There's also a Bill of Rights, and this sets out the rights of Americans. And we're just going to go through just a couple. The rights of over 18s to vote. It sets out everybody's right to freedom of speech, freedom to worship, freedom from slavery, and it allows people to carry guns. Now the President, I'm just going to go over a couple of rules about who can be the President and a couple of powers that the President has. So if you're going to be the President of the United States, you need to have been living there for the last 14 years, you need to be born in America, you need to be over the age of 35, and you cannot be elected more than twice. Some powers that they have, they can make treaties with other countries, that's like agreements with other countries, and they are the head of the armed forces, so the Army and the Navy and the American Air Force all answer to the President. Now there's two levels of government. There's the top government, the top end of the government if you want, which is called the federal government, and then there's the state government. The federal government's head is the President. It has responsibility for areas like defence and the armed forces. It can print money, and it deals with foreign policy. Foreign policy is how America interacts with other countries in the world. And the state government is run, or the head of the state, each state's government is called the governor. Each state has their own police force, they run their own education systems, they make up local taxes, and laws vary from state to state. For instance, some states have the death penalty and some states don't. Some states also have different marriage laws and, as I said, with the death penalty, different punishments. Now, the federal government and each state has its own Congress, which are made up of a Senate and a House of Representatives. So in each of the 50 states there is a Congress which is made up of a Senate and a House of Representatives. So that's 50 of them, because there's 50 states. And then at the top level, in the federal government, there is also a Congress which is just made up of a Senate and a House of Representatives. So that's how the government works. Now, some interesting facts or areas about how contrasting a country the United States is. Temperature. In Florida it is very hot, whereas in Alaska it is very cold. It's a big country. Time. The Atlantic coast is 3 hours ahead of the Pacific coast. So that means New York is 3 hours ahead in time than California. Land. There's the northern state of North Dakota is very flat, it doesn't have many hills in it, whereas in Colorado it's very mountainous, so it has lots and lots of different hills, so there's contrast in the sort of landscape of the country. As we've mentioned in the previous slide, different states have different laws. The population changes, the type of population or the spread of population, should I say. In Texas it's very sparse, that means there's a big area of land and not people don't live very close by, so to speak, compared to somewhere like New York, which is a small area of land and a lot of people live on it very, very close to each other. It's very crowded. And lastly, there's many different ethnic groups. You have Hispanics, which are people who are either born or descended from people who were born in Spanish-speaking countries. Black Americans, white Americans, and Native Americans. So all these different points show or represent how America, or the USA, is a contrasting country. So if you know, or if you can memorise all these different points in the 4 slides, then you should be set for your knowledge and understanding test.